I'm taking the BackupAssist ER challenge. That involves taking a full system backup of my Windows machine and then sending that backup locally and into the cloud. Then there will be three different types of recoveries: a local VM recovery, a full local bare metal disaster recovery, and doing a VMDR in the cloud. Now, because I'm under lockdown conditions, I'm actually just going to use the spare hardware I have in my house, which is this very old Surface Pro 4 from 2015, and this even older SSD from 2012 as my backup device. Let's get started. So the challenge begins. Just to confirm the current date and time, and I can do a refresh here so that you can see that this is the actual date and time with the current news. Okay, excellent. Now let's get started, and the stopwatch starts now. I'm going to install ER to start with. So this is a pre-release version of BackupAssist ER. Some of the screens may look slightly better in your version. I'm doing this about 1 month before the scheduled release date. So I will accept the terms of the agreement and install. And this is the very first time I'm using the software. Might seem hard to believe. How come the founder of the company has never used the software before? That's because I'm actually working very hard on a different product line at the moment, BackupAssist 365. And I know I've got a great team that I can trust wholeheartedly, so I don't really have to get involved with the software until they ask me to test it out, which is now. So BackupAssist ER is really geared towards a disk to cloud architecture. Now, the good thing about that is that it opens up a lot of different recovery options. Most of the time, businesses will want to recover locally, and that's the bread and butter functionality of this product. So let me start running it now. So the bread and butter is to do a full image backup of, in this case, of the C drive over to the D drive. And then I'll be able to recover any new machine on bare metal by using that local backup. Another recovery option is to do a local VM rapid recovery or instant boot. And what that enables me to do is to recover straight from the backup to, okay, I've been asked, I'll evaluate the software for 30 days. Excellent. So I can recover straight into a Hyper-V virtual machine and run the backup as a guest. Okay, so I've got no backups. I'll create a backup job. Create backup. I'll just call this ER challenge. Encryption. Well, it's very important to use encryption for the cloud backup. And I'll choose not to encrypt my local backups. So files and applications, I would just back up my C drive as expected. Storage location. I'll go to local disk and I'll select my D drive. Let's check that. Excellent, it's available. Just a little while ago, I set up a brand new Microsoft Azure account. I am going to call this Linus ER challenge. So this will create a container within my Azure account, and my connection string I actually have to cut and paste. So I have copied that from my Azure, and let's do a check. Now I am connected here on an Australian 4G connection. What that means is that the speed is going to be extremely variable. There are likely to be a lot of dropouts. And because it is Australian internet speed, it's generally quite slow. Excellent. So it looks like I've set everything up, and I can also set it on schedule. Now, that's backup retention. I'll keep 10 backups, between 10 and 20 backups, and 30 in the cloud. Look, that all looks good. I'm just going to click Save and Run. And let's see what happens. Okay, excellent. It looks like it's starting the backup. Well, that was just too easy. That indeed was too easy. So while the backup is running, I might as well tell you a little bit more about the functionality. Now, within BackupAssist ER is our brand new disk imaging engine. It's entirely our own, but it retains a lot of the great things about the philosophies that we've had. In other words, we believe that a backup should be accessible and stored in a non-proprietary format. So I'm just taking a look at this. Oh, that's all very interesting. So we've got hard disk image files here. So BackupAssist ER will store backups in a VHDX format. The great advantage of that is that VHDX is an open standard, and you're guaranteed to be able to get your data back decades into the future. Now, just imagine if you had backed up using a proprietary backup format, you're really at the mercy of the backup software provider. You've got to know that the version of their software is going to be around when you want to do the restore. Now, I've heard problems where people have tried to restore from backups from even just 5 years ago, and they're unable to do so because the version of that software won't run on modern operating systems from 5 years ago. And the current version, they'd have to update their software and pay for a new license just to be able to recover. Now, we think that's wrong. We think you should be able to recover your data even if you don't have our software installed. So that's why having a VHDX backup is so important. Open accessibility. The other thing about ER is that it's very geared towards express recovery. In fact, some people ask me, what does ER stand for? And I say, well, it could stand for express recovery, everyday resilience, expert response, easy restores, extended retention. There are a lot of features in ER that make it a great backup and DR solution. Now, the express recovery means that we give you multiple ways of recovering your system. I mentioned the bread and butter is to do a full server re-image. That is to get a new piece of hardware and re-image entirely from backup. And that's really easy to do with our Lifeline Recovery USB media, or ISO. You can boot into the recovery environment and just re-image your machine. Sometimes that can take a few hours. So there are many situations where a business doesn't want to be down for that long. So a great option is to actually boot from backup. Now, we can do that instantly by converting your backup into a Hyper-V virtual machine that's actually runnable. So all you need is a bare bones Hyper-V hypervisor, and then you can take your backup, make it into a bootable machine, and then run it instantly. So that's one of the things that I'll be doing in the challenge. And the third option is recovering in the cloud. So yes, at the moment, we're doing stage one, which is backing up my C drive to the USB SSD drive on D. However, the step after that is to take the D drive backup and then push it into the cloud. What I set up before was Microsoft Azure Blob Storage. Once it's pushed into the cloud, it's stored in a deduplicated, compressed, and encrypted form, because it's possible to save a lot of space when the data is in the cloud just by compressing and deduplicating the data. And of course, we want to save your bills, your hosting fees. So, you can get the benefits of storing your data in the cloud with a minimum of hosting costs. So then you might ask, well, if all my data is in the cloud, what can I do with it? Absolutely, you can then restore it back to a local machine. Again, you can restore it to a different machine if you wanted to. You don't have to restore it to exactly the same machine. And another thing you can do is to set up a Hyper-V hypervisor in the cloud and recover it to there and then get it running. So that's the third component of this challenge, is for me to actually set up a machine in Microsoft Azure and recover this Surface Pro 4 and have it running in the cloud. So I very much look forward to that. Now, this backup is taking its time. It's almost half done, which is great, but there was quite a bit of data to do. So what I'm going to do is sign out for now and just let this go on time lapse. And the transfer from Microsoft Azure is now queued. So while this is running, I might as well just take a look at what's on the backup device. BackupAssist backups. Nice. Properties, 46 gigabytes. That's pretty much what we expected. So welcome back. Now it's the next morning here, and my backup completed successfully overnight. I'm going to dig around just to see what I can find in terms of the results. So this is the backup report, and it took 2 hours 31 minutes to upload how much data? Well, the backup was 55 gigs in size, and it looks like it actually uploaded 22 gigs. Okay, that's a pretty good 2-to-1 compression ratio there. Especially when a lot of that data was actually the Windows system. That's quite impressive. Can I see the results? Okay, so I can view the report for the drive image component. And the drive image took just under 10 minutes. Okay, then I can see I can recover to EFI hardware, and it gives me a nice bar graph of usage as well.